when the children of Israel got scattered all over the planet, who did it? Yahweh did it. He took them all over the planet. And what he did, he used Satan as his errand boy. Now, when I come to understand that Satan doesn't have that kind of power, how in the world can somebody that's been placed under your feet have the kind of power to do what you say he does? Lord, the devil show on my back. Well, he sure enough is in the wrong place. I thought he was supposed to be under your feet. Lord, the devil came and bothered me last night. Well, why'd you let him? Why'd you tell him to stop? Why you let something under your feet get all around your neck? I'm saying there's got to be something wrong with my mind and the way I think to let that kind of stuff keep happening. He says, son, don't you know that I'm the one? Now some people don't believe it. They say, oh, no, well, God wouldn't make you sick. Well, you know, our ancestors, the old folk, they sure had it wrong then. Because they sure understood something about the living God. They said, all right, God will put stuff on you. God won't put no more on you than you can bear. He won't what? Put no more on you than you can bear? You mean he going to put something on me? How many of you got children? Have you ever whipped them? Did you put more on them than they could bear? No, you didn't. You put enough on them that they got some things straight. And what did they do? They started calling you worshipfully. Mama, please. Daddy, please. They started honoring you because you put the sport on them and you brought some order out of their chaos. And after you whooped them, they come to the door and look to see if you were in a certain zone, and if you weren't, they kind of ease on back over to where you were because they want that connection again. You don't even understand the God you serve. Don't even understand it. I know Satan is real, but I know where that whole terminology came from. Came out of the Zoroastrian religion, and they had what was called shaitans. They had many of them. And the Hebrews moved it to Satan, and he is real. But you know, Israel of old, they had no concept of Satan. All they knew were the people they were doing war with. They didn't know there was a Satan. So they were fighting those Canaanites, Girgasites, Amorites, the Perizzites. They were fighting those people. And to them, that was the resistors that they had to deal with. And all the devil is doing today is taking the spirit of those things, pushing them at you, and you're not fighting them. You're not understanding what to do with Goliath. You're letting Goliath come out every morning and defy you. Goliath comes out and says, hey, when you going to send somebody out to fight me? Now, here was King Saul. Saul was kind of schizophrenic like most of us. Yeah, he was. Saul was kind of schizophrenic. And he was supposed to be leading. Now, the thing about Saul is that Saul was head and shoulders taller than everybody else. You know what all the nations around them had? All of their kings that they had were angel-human hybrids. Go back and look up those old pictures of the Assyrians, the Egyptians, and they will have kings that were 9, 10, 12 feet tall. You can read the Bible. It talks about Og and Sihon and all these guys. Now, Og, the king of Bashan, his bed was 14 feet long. What size man was he? So Saul, they chose Saul because Saul was taller than everybody else, and that made them think they had a God king. And Saul was schizophrenic. So when Goliath showed up, Saul said, hey, boys, y'all better get out there and see, can't y'all protect me? And the other boys were saying, you the king. So for 40 days, Goliath come out. When you going to send somebody out here to fight with me? And they behind the rock trembling. So then David comes in. Little David playing on your harp. Now David was a little guy. David would have probably been 5'10". Saul would have probably been 6'6", 6'7". So when David came in, he heard all this noise. Goliath come out and said, "When you gonna send somebody out to fight with me?" And David said, "Who in the world is this uncircumcised Philistine gonna be talking to Yahweh's people like that?" No, but what do? When the devil comes out of you, you say, "Okay, Mr. Devil, Lord, don't hurt me, Mr. Devil." That's what we do. We don't have the spirit of David. We have the spirit of America that breaks you down and say, submit to the billionaire system. Let them control you. You don't have enough knowledge from the word. And what you do, you depend on how good I made you feel, and it makes you think you got a little unction. So you go out trying to be bad, then the devil slaps you down. Then you're back next Sunday wanting another shot in the arm. See, we need to stop dealing drugs in church. And we need to get you built up in the strength of the living God. So David said, "Who is he?" And they said, "That's Goliath." But you know who he is? David basically said, "This is what I'm going to tell you, King Saul. Goliath better go lie down somewhere, because I'm getting ready to take him out. What he needs to do is go on lie down, because I'm going to take him down." And then David come out and stood. And Goliath said, "What am I, a dog, that you send this little short, chump, mouthy thing out here against me?" He said, "I tell you what, I'm going to feed your carcass to the buzzards today, boy." David said, "I trow not." That's just old English for "I think not." David said, "I trow not." Said, "For the buzzards are going to eat Philistine today." We're going to have a Philistine, as some black folks say, buffet today. Because with your big old tail, I'm going to knock you down, and the buzzards are going to eat for weeks off of you. And listen, let me tell you why David cut Goliath's head off. Because but you got to go back and find out enough history. You know, the only way that they could really stop those angel-human hybrids, you had to cut his head off. They thought if you didn't cut his head off, his spirit would just bring life back in him, and he'd go about his business. So David cut his head off. Do you understand? You're not supposed to have your head cut off. You cut the demon's head off. You shut him down, and you do that by keeping your thinking right. That's right. That's right. Because what does the devil come to mess with? Your head. He comes to cut your head off. You say, "Well, the devil made me sick." He made you sick to mess with your head. And if he can get you to believe what he put in your body, then he can go on about his business, and you'll keep the sickness going. Do you understand? Once he can put it on you and you accept it in your head, now you pass it on to your bloodline. Because you have now become the carrier of that thing. So when you cut Goliath off, cut his head off, Goliath can do nothing with you. Now, I got a few minutes. Let me tell you what we're going to be doing this coming week, because I'm looking for some results. I'm not going through the nice little Easter message, and then we have an Easter egg hunt and chocolate bunnies, and we give the children something nice, and they come back home with their little Easter baskets. No, that's cute. But when they get in school and they start telling them that it's okay for Sean to marry Kyle, that Easter basket ain't going to do a cotton-picking thing. I'm talking about giving them some knowledge and putting a strength of the Spirit in them so that they are not afraid to stand up for what is right. Now, why is it that we as the believer have to be pushed back in the corner and called strange because we disagree with a world system that's gone mad? Why do I have to be called? Oh, well he's just so different. He don't, listen, the LGBT community is there. I find it in the scriptures. They built houses of prostitution for them right next to the temple of Yahweh. They have always been here. And Yahweh said certain things, and he didn't have a whole lot of respect for certain kings who let them do that. But then the kings that tore those houses down. You see, this is what you need to understand, that a lot of this stuff, when they got ready to worship their false gods, they built what they called groves. And let me tell you what the groves were. The groves were trees. And what they would do, they would go in and denude the trees. They'd cut all the limbs off, cut the top out of it, so it looked like a male penis. Now, all right now, if some of y'all ready to leave, I understand. But I'm trying to tell you where this stuff came from. They had the groves, and they were denuded trees. And what they would do, they would come in and bow to the goddess. Now, who was the goddess? She was the spring goddess, and it started with the Canaanites, and she was called Ishtar. So when she came down from the heavens, this denuded tree was the phallic symbol that they were worshiping to bring her down. So when she came down, there was penetration from the goddess of the heavens with the earth that was simply literally the female. The earth was always considered the female, the heavens were considered the male, but because the moon was in the heavens, they had to give symbology of what was going on the earth with the gods and the goddesses. So when Ishtar, whose name was Astarte, then moved to Ishtar, Ashtaroth, Ashtoreth is the plural, then it went over to the German and it became Ooster, then the French made it Easter, and we have the Easter worship of sex gods and goddesses, and we call it Easter. That has nothing to do with my Jesus. Nothing. You can go online, look it up. Encyclopedia Britannica, you can find it. I'm just telling you stuff that we should have been reading a long time ago. But see, you got caught up in the church. They tell you don't read, just do what I tell you. Wrong. This is, I'm telling you the truth. So, what they did, God told them, tear down the groves. Get rid of them. Now, where did the grove come from? The grove came all the way back from Egypt and went all the way back to Old Babylon, which was at the Tower of Babel. And what they did, they were worshiping Baal. Baal was the male god. So when you saw the denuded tree, that represented Baal. And when Ishtar came down, she was being impregnated by Baal. And that's where all the other little gods came from, because they came out of Ishtar and Baal. So what the Babylonians did, they set Baal up. Their supreme god was Baal. And Baal was the sun god, the god of fire, the god of heat. And what they did, they set the worship of Baal up, and all of their temples would have columns, what they call ziggurats. And when you came into Babylon, the ziggurat, the temple, was also the bank. And the temple always had temple prostitutes. And when you came in to Babylon to do business, you went to the bank, which was the temple, you exchanged your money, and you could buy you a temple prostitute at the same time. So they would put that symbol up so you could find it real easy. Egypt did the same thing. They called it the obelisk, obelisk. Where do you see one now? In Washington, D.C. Where do you see others? You see modified versions sitting on top of our churches. Now don't go out, I've said it, y'all don't get in trouble by you trying to defend something you can't even explain like I explained it. Don't go, but wait, that thing ain't got no business on your church. Leave people alone, let them hear me. You don't know what you're talking about yet. Just leave it alone. You ain't studied enough. And all you do is go out there and get yourself in something and make folk mad and make them think, I don't know what I'm talking about because you don't know what the hell you talking about. That's right. Send them to me. You're not studied enough yet. You don't know what this thing is. I just explained to you, and you're going to run. I haven't heard it one time and think you know something. All you do is get your little rear end chewed up and make me look bad because you can't explain the whole thing. So just be quiet. And just listen and pray for folk. And for those of you who have never heard an apostle say the word H-E-L-L, please get over that. Because you think stuff in church. You sit over there and look across the aisle and say, I can't stand that B-I-T-C-H. That H-O gets on my nerves. You say that stuff in church. You say it out of church with other folk that go to church. See, so don't get religious on me. Don't get religious. I'm just trying to get you to understand. You need to do something called thinking. We do so little of that. And aside from that, I can take you to the Bible and show you that God said there are a lot of people going to hell. Hell is a real place. The Bible says hell enlarges itself. It was made for the devil and his angels, but it's enlarging itself to receive humans that want to follow the devil and his angels. I have no intention of being there. I'm not going to be there simply because some people don't understand necessarily what I'm saying, because I can't be moved by what man has to say. I have come to understand what this Bible is all about, and I'm going to find how to get through the things that are binding and holding me up. I asked the Lord, I said, God, what about these gifts of the Spirit? He said, yeah, they're in the body of Christ. They're supposed to be there. He said, but everybody does not have them. He said, if you all just learn to walk in my word and live right, you really wouldn't need them. Because I would just do what I said. He said, but you all depend on the gifts. That's why y'all can get played so bad, because the devil will bring the gifts, and you black folk will run anywhere where you think that Dr. Smallfungus or Apostle Buzzard has got some kind of anointing, and you come up, oh, I need him to lay hands on me. He should bring $39.99, so I got to get it. And he said, don't bring 40, so I need 99 cents. So I got to take exactly what he said so I can do what the man of God said, because I need this healing. I need this new job. You ought to know how to work that by yourself. I got no business hustling you. But we get hustled because we don't know any better. Now, those of you that are members here, you all right. Some of you all that are visiting for the first time, it's all right. Devil ain't gonna bother you. I'm about the worst you're gonna run into. Everything else from this point will be uphill, because I'm about the the most radical, come from somewhere else preacher you gonna hear for a while. Now there's some more of us coming up, and when they do, then they're going to say, Jacob won't crazy words. No, I know I ain't crazy. I don't care what people think. They can say, well, I think he's crazy. Well, really, since you don't come to church here, you don't buy any CDs, you help us pay no airtime, I hope you understand that I frankly don't care. Why am I going to be concerned about you? You put nothing in this ministry. And I'm going to be concerned with what you think. You don't have any knowledge. You read the Bible on Christmas and Easter. I read it every day. I study it every day. And then you're going to sit back and tell me what I know to be true. You're religious. Because you can't even hear the conclusion of the whole matter before you start passing judgment. And I said, Lord, you know, something happened to me, and I told my wife, you know, when my sister passed back in February, my prayer life was shut down. I could not get back in the zone. I said, Lord, what is wrong with me? And I always know when this kind of stuff happens, none of it lasts. I know that they all come and they only last for a moment. So I knew that at some point he was going to bring me completely out of it, but I just didn't know when. And see, it was just standard practice. He'd wake me up 3, 4 in the morning, and I'd get up and I'd pray 2, 3, 4 hours, you know, and then go back to bed. Well, that hadn't happened since she passed. And I said, Lord, what is wrong? How do I fix this? And I tried. I'd get up and go and try to go pray and couldn't do a thing but just sit there. Nothing would come out. I'm like, Lord, what is wrong with me? Now, it was giving me a fit. I'm like, Lord, this is not me. I don't know what to do with this. Well, I said, now, Lord, I don't know where to go with it. I don't know what else to do. I said, but it's like my prayer life is shot. I said, just before she passed, I'm praying 2, 3, 4 hours a night consistently. I said, after she passed, I can't hardly pray 5 minutes without my brain going somewhere else. What is this? Well, I was laying there in the bed Thursday night. Now, I do not have any trouble with my prostate. None. But I'm laying there in the bed, and my prostate went to hurting me so bad. I thought, God, what in the world is this? I turned this way, that way. I don't care where I would turn, it would just get worse. So I'm laying there thinking, I'm going to go get me a Tylenol. I got to do something. This thing is about to drive me up a wall. I have never had that kind of pain. I don't understand this. I don't have any trouble in that area. Why is this happening? So I laid there for about 20 minutes. Wouldn't work. So I finally said, okay, I'm going in and get me a Tylenol. As soon as I finally worked my way off the bed and stood up, the Holy Spirit said, go pray. And I thought, that ain't working. You know, I'm telling you how the realm of the Spirit works. I know you all know a lot about God, but I know some things that maybe you ain't experienced yet. And I got up, and see, I don't know about you brothers that's ever had any pain in your prostate, but when you got it, you take little baby steps. See, you don't walk like you're a man, you walk like you're a baby. And that thing was giving me a fit. And I'm like, I've never had anything like that. He said, pray. When I stood up, the spirit of prayer had come back. And I started praying just like I was before. By the time I got to the kitchen, there was no pain. Now, this is what he told me. He said, you know what? He said, you had got caught up under a demonic lie. And you had made up your mind that nothing was working. And he said, even when I woke you up, you laid there and said, well, I ain't going to get up because my prayer life ain't working. He said, I had to send something serious on you. He said, that got you up. And that quickly you realized your prayer life was back, and I've been back in the zone ever since. You see, there are things that we don't understand about how he works. But he brought, now see, he knew if he just given me, I don't have headaches. He knew if he had given me something that I was accustomed to, I'd have just rolled on over and went on back to sleep. But when he started messing with that fella, now, you go to messing with that messes with a lot of things. So, and I have no pain, no discomfort now. None. But he did that. So, I just say to folk who were there when God made the earth, there's still some things you don't know about how he works. He will do things that you just cannot get a grip on. And he did that because I wouldn't have gotten up, because I'd already made it up in my mind. I don't know when I'm going to get my spirit of prayer back, but whenever it does, I thank you. But see, he wanted me to pray then. So exactly 3:59, I stand up. At 4 o'clock, I'm back in the zone that quick. And when I finished praying, I finally just gave out. It was about 5:15, somewhere in there. He said, you can go back to bed. Now, I just wanted to show you I've given it back. I've let you have back what you thought had been taken. He said, but you don't understand what happens. That's another whole teaching about what happens when loved ones leave who know him. There are things that happen in the realm of the spirit that we don't have a clue, and we don't teach you in church. We have no idea. We don't even understand how this stuff works. There are things that he's allowing me to understand. I can't explain it to people. I just tend to my business. I've said something, but I can't even get into it to the depth that I need to, because there are a lot of things that you wouldn't understand. I can talk to her about it. There are things I can't even explain to my brothers and sisters. They don't know what I'm talking about. So I just have to keep my mouth shut, go home, tend to my business. Because there are things that are deep things that the Holy Spirit is revealing that I understand and didn't understand. And once that happened, he let me know. He said, now, there's a different unction going to come on your teaching and preaching. I thought, okay. So I'm just thinking that, well, I'm just going to dig in and just find some more information. He said, I want you to find all you can. He said, but I may not use anything that you come up with. He said, because I'm trying to get you to understand, when I want to preach, all I need is your body and your voice. He said, I don't need everything else that you think you have. He said, because you all think too highly of yourselves, and you all don't give me the right of way. You want to operate in entertainment, and I want to operate in deliverance. I want to break yokes. And he said, the things that I can say, he said, you all think just because there's a whole lot of fanfare and folks hollering and screaming and falling out, you think there's a lot of deliverance. He said,